At first glance, the Gulf of Mexico seems straightforward, a smooth curve carved into the southeast edge of North America. It looks calm, almost like a giant blue bowl framed by the US, Mexico, and Cuba. But don't let that simple shape fool you. Beneath the surface lies one of the most complex, energetic, and world-shaping bodies of water on Earth. This isn't just a gulf, it's a machine. And its story begins on a scale that's nearly impossible to comprehend. Spanning over 600,000 square miles, the Gulf is so huge that if it were its own country, it would rank as the 21st largest, bigger than Iran. You could fit Texas inside of it twice, and still have space left over. With its enormous size, it doesn't behave like a typical bay, but more like a small ocean with its own rules. And its semi-enclosed geography gives away its unique character. The Gulf is almost completely surrounded by land, connected to the Atlantic only through two narrow gateways, the Yucatan Channel in the south and the Straits of Florida in the east. These tight choke points mean that water entering the Gulf lingers, warms, and transforms before eventually leaving. But here's the twist. The real power of the Gulf doesn't come from ocean water flowing in, but from the rivers pouring down into it. An astonishing 33 major river systems, draining more than 60% of the United States, empty into the Gulf of Mexico. Among them, the Mississippi reigns supreme. The Mississippi isn't just a river, it's the central drainage system of an entire continent. Every single second, it sends nearly 600,000 cubic feet of water into the Gulf. To visualize that, it's enough water to fill New Orleans Superdome in just 3 minutes. And with it comes enormous amounts of sediment, the literal soil of America's heartland, swept thousands of miles downstream. For thousands of years, this process built new land, creating Louisiana's vast delta and wetlands. The ground you stand on in New Orleans may have once been dirt from Illinois or Ohio. This river-fed infusion makes the Gulf part ocean, part river, and unlike any other body of water on the planet. But there's a darker side. That same sediment, once life-giving, is now at the center of a land loss crisis. The Louisiana coast is disappearing at one of the fastest rates on Earth. And if you could drain the Gulf itself, you wouldn't find a smooth bowl, but an underwater landscape as diverse as the land around it. In some places, like off Florida and the Yucatan, the seafloor slopes gently, creating vast, shallow platforms. In others, it plunges to terrifying depths. The deepest spot, the Sigsbee Deep, reaches more than 14,000 feet down. Strangely, instead of being a rugged trench, it's flat, paved smooth by millions of years of sediment. That buried mud hides a secret, the Gulf's violent origin during the breakup of Pangaea. Around 200 million years ago, as North and South America split apart, a shallow basin formed in between. Sometimes it connected to the ocean, other times it was cut off. When seawater poured in and evaporated under the blazing Mesozoic sun, it left behind immense layers of salt. Over millions of years, rivers buried that salt under thick layers of rock and mud. But salt isn't ordinary rock. It flows under pressure, slowly rising through the earth like thick honey. These salt domes warped surrounding rock layers and eventually became the perfect traps for oil and gas. When the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, they saw the Gulf as a liquid highway, their private lake, connecting the silver mines of Mexico to Spain. For centuries, it was a battleground of pirates, navies, and empires, but its greatest treasure wasn't silver. It was the black gold hidden beneath, made possible by those salt domes. By the 20th century, oil and gas exploration transformed the Gulf into an energy powerhouse. And yet, the Gulf's most terrifying influence comes not from oil, but from storms. Because of its bathtub-like shape, huge heat storage, and constant input of warm Caribbean waters, the Gulf of Mexico is the world's ultimate hurricane factory. In late summer, its surface waters climb into the upper 80s Fahrenheit. Beneath, the loop current acts like a river of hot water, keeping the Gulf charged with energy. When a tropical storm drifts in, it can supercharge overnight, exploding into a monster hurricane. This is why storms like Katrina, Harvey, and Ida became so devastating so quickly. But the Gulf doesn't just change weather in the U.S. Its influence stretches across the entire Atlantic. That same warm water flows out through the Florida Straits and feeds into the Gulf Stream, a massive ocean current that carries heat thousands of miles northeast. By the time it reaches Europe, it's releasing warmth that makes winters in London mild compared to Canada, even though they share the same latitude. Without the Gulf, Europe would likely freeze. So the Gulf of Mexico isn't just a regional feature, it's a global climate engine. A geological accident turned into an oil reservoir, turned into the nursery of hurricanes and the heater of Europe. It's not just a gulf, it's one of the most powerful gears in Earth's climate machine.